Just pausing to listen to the birds and the crickets because it's been a very long day. Today is Saturday, June 10th, 2023. And here is your tour of the Up North Garden. We spent all day out here again today. Dad finished putting the chicken wire around the entire perimeter. The electric fence is great at keeping large critters out, but the chicken wire is needed to keep the small critters out. Squirrels, woodchucks, things of the sort. We got some great things going on in the garden. Everything is doing quite well. We've got some additional broccoli that Mom put in here. We got our marigolds that are starting to bloom. They're a pretty little sight to see. So far, they have kept all the white butterflies off of the brassicas. These guys are Brussels sprouts. Some people in the family like them. Some people call them wrist rocket ammunition. And we got some really exciting news. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see this or not, but we're actually getting broccoli florets. So that is coming along quite nicely. Those things just absolutely exploded over the last week or so. So, for those who like broccoli, we're excited. For those who don't like broccoli, again, that's probably the same people that don't like the Brussels sprouts and call them wrist rocket ammunition. We did not get to weed this portion of the garden today. I'll show you why. We had some other things that were going on, some other tasks out here that we took care of. If you have been diligent and have watched all of the videos that I've made thus far, you may remember how wimpy these guys were when I planted them. These are tomatillos, and they have found something that they like, which is good. So for those of you who like it, there's probably more salsa verde in the future. Cucumbers have been really slow to come along. I think I'm going to direct sow some of these. These guys I started inside, and I had heard that they shock and don't do well with the transplant. Well, yeah, that's probably accurate based on what I'm seeing, but they're starting to grow, which is always encouraging. The things that are doing best over here on this trellis would be our bitter melon. Starting to really take off, and then get the little curlicues to climb up. That one's already grabbed on. That's really cool. They took so long to sprout when we started them that we ended up starting a second batch of them, and that's why we have so many between here and the Bloomington house. Hope you like bitter melon. Here is watermelon. It's looking good, growing great. And then as we continue through here, we've got our squashes and some pumpkins, and I'm not going to bore you with going through every single one of them, but they're coming up and doing well. Mom's zucchini is on the very end. We always tease her about the zucchini because most of us don't care for it. She comes back with, well, you like the chocolate zucchini cake, and yeah, that's true. So I'll come over here, a couple peppers. See, it looks like 5 peppers went in the ground today. These are more of a bell variety, so they're going to be just eaters, I suppose. Ground cherries are coming along. I've seen these, well, actually I've seen the fruit at my sister's, but I've never seen the foliage, so I'm not sure how bushy or big they're going to get. These are Troy's peppers, which, again, if you've watched since the beginning, you know that these guys started as just 2 little leaves for each plant. We learned that we're going to need to start these way sooner than our other items for next year. These are jalapenos and Thai something. Ask Troy. So this is how we spent a good part of our day. I know I said in the beginning that we weren't going to do cattle panels and T-posts because it was expensive and it was more money than we wanted to spend for the tomato run. Well, I knew that in the end I wanted to have cattle panels for the tomatoes, and it was going to be quite a chore to unroll the fencing that we had and put it up here. Found some options on Facebook Marketplace, but everybody had sold them by the time I would have been able to go and pick them up. So just bit the bullet, went and supported our local Tractor Supply and bought cattle panels and T-posts. And then we went through and we pruned all of the tomatoes. So the pruning, Troy took a video of the pruning earlier today. And if I ever learn how to use YouTube and actually edit different videos together, maybe you'll get to see that. But the idea here is 12 to 18 inches up, you take all the foliage off. And then you get these suckers that come out of here, and you take those off as well. And then as these get a little bit bigger, we will use probably a multitude of different devices to clip these to the cattle panel to support them. And the idea there with pruning is that the plant then puts all of its energy into growing tall and producing blooms and developing the fruit instead of trying to support multiple branches. So growing up, all we ever did was slap a tomato cage around these guys and just let them go wild, and that's perfectly fine. But with 90 some odd tomatoes in the garden, I think it's worth trying this pruning method to see what's happening. So these guys are they're doing really well. I think we calculated it the other night. I lost one. So of 91 planted, we have 90. Today, during pruning, there are a couple of little oopsies. So there were some plants that just got stuck in the dirt, and if they live, they live, and if they don't, they don't. But we've got less than a 1% failure rate on the transplanting, which is pretty stinking good for a couple city kids who really don't know what they're doing but want to learn. So basil is also taken off well. That was a treat as we were sitting on our butts and scooting through the rows to prune the tomatoes. The smell of the basil is it's fresh. It's beautiful. I love it. So anyway, I'm pretty happy and proud of the cattle panels for the tomatoes. I'm excited to see how it goes as they double and triple in size and we start getting them attached to the cattle panels. My good little buddy Joel, he's not so little anymore, to be honest, he misunderstood my directions when it came to planting these moonflowers and morning glories. I asked him to take all the seeds that I'd handed him and to plant it along both sides of this cattle panel arch. Well, he initially planted all of the seeds here and there. So today I went through and transplanted them. They look a little wilty, but there's a lot of moisture in the ground, and I think they'll be just fine. But I'm really excited for these guys to jump up and start grabbing that cattle panel and going to town. Over here we have radishes and something else. Mom put those in the ground. That is Swiss chard that we decided to put in a different spot in the garden after it was already planted, but it decided to come up where it was anyway, so be it. Carrots are coming. They are so stinking slow, and it seems to be that Duke loves running through here. And these little carrot plants are so tender that we have not weeded these rows yet, because with these larger pieces of grass that are in the row, you're going to completely uproot that little carrot. So we're going to let the carrots get a little bit bigger before we go through here and weed. So this, I believe, is what a proper garden is supposed to look like. We spent a good amount of time today. Troy started and I helped him finish. Weeded all these 3 rows of potatoes. The potatoes are doing okay. I mean, we've got some huge plants. That's like 18 inches tall. So they've probably doubled in size in the last week, which is fantastic. Probably by the 4th of July, we can get in there and steal some baby potatoes. And maybe by then, we'll have our first beans, bacon, and potatoes. Everybody loves that. We were a little disappointed though, because as we got toward the end of this row, we found potato bugs. So we're gonna have to keep an eye on that. Not terribly fond of putting a whole bunch of chemicals on the garden, which I know there's a number of different chemicals you can put on there to treat them. But the old-fashioned way, excuse me, of taking care of potato bugs is to do it, excuse me, with your fingers. And I just noticed that this, they're making more potato bugs. No! Okay, so these guys, you should just squish in between your fingers, which is really totally gross. And these are the eggs. So what we usually do is clip that with the eggs, dispose of that. And Joel, I'm gonna ask you to take these somewhere and go smash them.
That you literally just interrupted their mating sessions.
Yes, well, they shouldn't be doing that out here where children are present.
Also, you need to go eat.
Okay, I'll be there in a minute. All right, so today was, I don't even think it hit 70 degrees today. It's crazy cool, a bit overcast. We got rain last night, so it was perfect conditions for being out in the garden and not sweating to death and getting eaten by mosquitoes because we had a nice breeze. So we're eating dinner at, I don't know, 8:30. I think that's what time it is. Beans and such are coming along. These are the pintos. These are more potatoes that need to be weeded. Yeah, just walk along here and show you what we got. The potatoes are kind of funny because at first I was thinking, wow, you know, we didn't get a very good germination on those. They didn't come up. They didn't come up in spots, but there's some that are just popping through the ground still, you know, and others that are 18 inches tall. So they're coming along. Again, more beans, multiple different varieties. And here we get into the peas. The peas are starting to send out their runners. They're just about ready to reach out and touch the fence and start their journey up the fence. Peas are an early crop, so we'll probably have shell peas and snap peas until maybe mid-July, and then that's going to be it because it gets too hot and they just don't like it. In more southern states, they grow these in the late fall and very early spring because they just don't like the heat of the summer. So another row of beans over here. These are our rattlesnake beans. They're doing pretty well. They should be reaching out and grabbing the fence here shortly. For whatever reason, they're not coming up well in this area. And I don't know if it's the seed or if they got planted too deep. So there's no harm in us going through and replanting the bare spots, because actually for succession planting, that's kind of a good idea. That way all of our beans don't come on at once, and maybe we'll do that. I don't think we'll be able to spend much time in the garden tomorrow, Maybe that'll be a weekend project for next weekend. These guys are the big purple beans that my mom got from the seed library at Pine River. And again, I'm told that these are not great to eat, but they climb like crazy and provide almost a screen, like a privacy screen, because they have so much foliage, and that they have really pretty orange blossoms and purple seed pods. So those would be kind of cool. We're just trying a little bit of everything, seeing what works, seeing what we like, because why not? Why not? And then we get down in here, and for whatever reason, the pigweed really likes this area. Again, more weeding needed, but such is life. These pinto beans didn't really take off over here, so I'm not sure what's going on with that, but we'll figure it out. And this is our last row of potatoes. These were seed potatoes that we bought from Burpee, and these potatoes looked good enough to eat. Seed potatoes have usually got eyes on them. They're starting to grow root type things, and so it was the worst looking potatoes ever that have come through the ground the earliest, fastest, and have the biggest plants. These are really good looking potatoes that hardly had any eyes on them at all, but they're starting to come. I was kind of worried about this row. There was a portion of it that didn't get any water for a couple of weeks, and it just wasn't doing anything. But they're just slow to come on. There's a little baby tater. So anyway, that is what we have in the garden for this year. Tomorrow, we're going to have some visitors here at the farm. We're going to go fishing, so probably won't spend any time out here in the garden. That's why I wanted to take a minute to show you how it's progressed. Until next time, take care.